I'm Holly Chanchoso. I am customer care, and today I am joined by John Faircloth, who is True Gardens commercial specialist. John handles all the commercial applications, all the farms, and today we're going to share a little bit about some commercial applications, but we are here to talk to you today about the microgreen section, the baby green section. I think that's one of the most questions I get asked is what's a microgreen? What can I grow in my microgreens? So that's what we're going to address today. So, John, what is a microgreen?
Microgreens are smaller ports that you're going to harvest more often. It's a boost of flavor and color to add to whatever you're serving. You can use microgreens as can't think of the word, a garnish, or you can use microgreens in your salad to enhance flavor and enhance appearance as well. And
And if
and, and they're nutrient packed as well.
yeah, because you're getting them when they're baby and really full, right?
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
I want to show everybody a picture of the high density towers, the microgreen towers, and it's a full tower of it that we use in our commercial applications. So first, here's a close up, and you can see all the little ports, and it's a variety of leaf lettuces in this one. John, do you know what's in this? Do you know
These
what's
are different. These are different varieties. There's some five-star gourmet. There is Cherokee. There is different lettuce varieties, and then there's also kale that's grown in these in during this trial. There was also a couple of different varieties of kale. Also some onions like chives and whatnot, and herbs like um, we did cilantro and we did I think basil also in this, but only certain varieties of basil you'll want to grow in your microgreen ports.
yeah, because like that new far basil, that sweet basil, that would get just too big. So I'm going to show
That
you
plant, yeah,
another.
that plant gets large, and I think that's a good idea. Stick with different varieties other than New Far.
And here's the whole row of towers.
Yep, that's just showing more of the lettuces and with the LED lights. They're running the LED lights about 18 hours, the same as you would on a regular port. The biggest difference is you're harvesting more often because the more frequently you harvest the smaller ports, the longer that plant is going to produce in that port. So if you harvest more often, it'll last you longer.
All right. And then John did a really nice time elapse video, and I'm going to show you him harvesting quickly. And then I'm going to pause it and let you see exactly how far down he's cutting, when he started harvesting. So let me share that video. And you see John just going at it, harvesting away. And I'm going to pause it here. And then you can explain on what you're doing and how you're harvesting. Because I see that you don't take it all the way down. And I think that's probably the most common mistake for people is taking it down too far.
That's exactly right, Holly. You can scalp the plants just like you can scalp your lawn when mowing. I like to start from the top and just work my way down on one side, and then I'll go to the other side and finish it up. But you just have your bag, bowl, whatever you want to use to hold it, and start at each opening port. And I grab the entire plant and cut about 2 inches above the opening of the port. And that gives you enough room. You don't want to cut the new growth that's growing inside the plant near the stolon, where the rock will meet the plant. There'll be new buds. And if you cut too low, it just it isn't as healthy, but it's also it makes the plant not come back as pretty as it was the first time. So just about 2 inches above the opening of the port, and you're good to go. And just in these, like I said, you're probably going to be harvesting every 5 to 7 days on the tower. once you start harvesting. And this variety is red romaine.
Okay. And then I see the tower next to you. That one you've already harvested too on the right.
That one was, and I think that one was Cherokee, or it's either Green Grand Rapids, one or the other. They look similar. And yes, that one was just harvested prior to this current tower.
And how much growth, how long was it growing before you started harvesting?
So on the seedlings, just like on your regular porch, you plant the seeds into the rock wool, and you're going to take about 3 to 4 weeks before you transplant it into the tower. And then once you do that, it's another 3, 4 weeks, we'll say, especially if you're in colder climates. 4 weeks. So a total of 8 weeks from the time you plant the seed till the time you do your first harvest. But after the first harvest, you're not waiting another 4 weeks. It's going to be ready in about another week, 5 to 7 days, and you'll harvest again. The
And how
volumes
many
won't be as high, but you'll still be producing, and you're going to do more and more harvest from that same port.
and how many harvests do you think you cut? Or how many cuts do you get off of a plant?
I would say you're going to get a 3 month growth cycle. So if you're doing it about every 10 days, let's say on average, 7 days on average, you're probably going to get eight to 12 harvests off of each port because you're
Wonderful.
doing it that often. Yeah, get a lot.
And
You get a lot. The volumes are lower, but you get a lot.
and how do you know when it's done? When that
You
plant
when,
is
Yep, you're gonna start seeing that your volume is really low. You're not getting, it's not producing as many new leaves, and so that's when you know. And also, you could also tell by inside the plant if you pull one out to check, for example, you'll have roots that are just filled up inside there and it's too dense. So that's another indication, but mostly you're going to notice that the production is down, and that's when you want to change it out.
now I know, like I said, we get a lot of because with the home unit, you've got 16 grow ports. And I'm
Right.
always having people ask, what can I grow? So some of the suggestions I make is slow growing herbs like oregano and thyme. I
Hmm.
think chives do great in there because that's something you're cutting on often. And I think you
Yep.
need quite a few chives. And
Yes.
then a lot of the some of the smaller varieties like the holy tulsi and the Thai basil that don't get as big.
Yep,
So a
that's
lot of
true.
herbs. And then I always suggest like we at True Garden for our seedlings have like an all-star spring mix, an elegance mix, raising greens, where you've got a nice variety and leaf lettuce individual, not making a head so that you're cutting it frequently. Are those some good suggestions?
Those are very good suggestions, and all are correct. The other thing I would add to that is that the microgreen port doesn't change the makeup of the plant. It's still going to be the same plant, the same thing you put into a regular port. It's just going to grow smaller because you're cutting more often. And the other thing is that you wouldn't do like head lettuces or anything large because it's going to overtake the port or the tower. It'll grow in it, but there's no purpose. You defeat the purpose of what a microgreen is for. So keep your lettuce, herbs, and greens, all your cut varieties. You can do, um, kales, Swiss chard. You can do um, arugula. You can do, but just remember that you don't want to do any head lettuces like butterhead bib or anything like that in the microgreen port.
And keep it small. They're
Keep it
baby
small.
greens because you got to be cutting them when they're babies. Otherwise, like you said, they're going to overtake. And because those ports are so close, it's going to overgrow on top of the other ones if you let your Swiss chard or kale get large.
So that's right, and that means that the microgreen towers probably is a little more maintenance because you're harvesting more often. You don't want it to get overgrown or big or large. You want it to stay small, and you want to stay on top of the harvesting, and that way you'll extend the life of that tower and what it produces.
So it's a weekly job.
Definitely, definitely so. Yes,
All right.
definitely.
Now, one of the other things I have done myself is I as I know my bib lettuces and things like that are, coming close to an end, I will
Yep.
start seedlings up there and then move them down to the ports.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to use the microgreen port as a seed starter, it's great for that. Also, for you folks that still do your raised beds, your planted gardens, you can start your seeds off in the tower, feeding it, injecting nutrient when it's really, really young, developing a hardy root system on each plant. You can take it out of the tower, you can trim up the root a little bit, and then plant it in your raised beds or your garden. It'll do wonderful.
Make very strong transplants rather than starting
Yes,
from seed.
yes, yes, yes.
That's a great
And you
idea.
don't have to worry about, you know, small rodents or birds getting the seeds, because they're all going to be established, and then you plant them in your garden and you've eliminated that issue.
So, microgreens, small, trim frequently, stuff that you're going to be cutting on or that is really slow growing. Your nursery area for both indoors and your raised beds.
Correct.
High nutrients, nutrient dense, tender and young. Because I always said I'm not a big fan of kale. I
Right,
don't like
right.
full-size kale. I sure like baby green kale though, because it's tender.
It's tender. It's not as pungent. As the plant gets larger, sometimes it can get that stronger flavor. And I'm like you, Holly. I'm not a huge fan of the flavor of kale, but I know it's nutritiously packed. So we chop it up finely. So with the microgreen, you don't even have to do that. You just trim it, have the smaller leaves, and just throw that in your lettuce mix, and you're getting the nutritional value, and it's not overbearing in flavor.
Arugula can get overbearing too, and
Yes, it
that's a
can.
great way to grow arugula.
Absolutely, 100% right. Yes.
So you're not really making a salad out of the microgreens. It's more of a salad topping. It's adding nutrients to that bib lettuce, right? And
Salad
flavor.
topping, garnishing, creating appearance that's more colorful, because you're going to use varieties that are going to grow brightly in color, especially under these LEDs that we have on the towers. If you're growing indoors, or if it's outdoors in the direct sunlight, so absolutely, it appeases the appearance of the salad as well. And you see these little tiny miniature leaves of the varieties you're used to seeing, the large leaves, and it's kind of cool looking. It looks really neat.
Oh, and like you said, nutrient packed and flavorful
Yes,
packed.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, John, thanks so much for talking with me with microgreens. We hope we helped everybody out and gave you some ideas, and you're more excited to try that area because I know it can be kind of scary because it's a new area.
Exactly. Thanks for having me, Holly. I appreciate you inviting me.
All right, take care, John.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.